They say fire erases everything. They're wrong. I sit in the darkness, my permanent darkness, with a piece of paper that shouldn't exist. It smells like 15-year-old smoke and secrets. My fingertips trace the surface, following ridges invisible to anyone who still has their sight. Most people read ink. I read panic. The indentations are deep, carved by a hand that pressed too hard, too fast. A ballpoint pen driven into paper by someone who knew they were running out of time. My mother's hand. Scritch. Scritch. My nail catches on each frantic valley. I've spent 3 hours decoding this fragment, this impossible survivor of the fire that took everything. My parents, my sight, my inheritance. The fire, Uncle Elias said, left nothing but ash. He lied. My fingertip finds the first complete sentence. And my blood turns to ice. Elias is outside the door with a gas can. The grandfather clock that hid this letter is shattered at my feet. And somewhere in this house, my uncle, my guardian, my jailer, my family's murderer, is coming to see what broke. I have minutes to decide what to do with the truth. 3 days before I found the letter, Uncle Elias brought me gardenias. I heard his footsteps first. Italian leather on marble. The confident stride of a man who owns everything he walks on, including me. The door to my room opened without a knock. It never does. Privacy is a privilege reserved for people Elias trusts, and he's never trusted me to be alone for long. "Lucy, darling." His voice rolled out like warm honey over gravel. "I brought you something." The scent hit me before he crossed the room. Gardenias. Heavy, cloying, suffocating. He placed the vase on my nightstand with a deliberate clink, close enough that I couldn't ignore it. "Thank you, Uncle," I said, because that's what I always say. His hand found my shoulder, it always does, and squeezed with what someone watching might mistake for affection. "You're so pale today." "Are you eating enough?" "I worry about you, sweetheart. You know how much I worry." "I know." He reminds me every single day. "I'm fine," I told him, my fingers fidgeting with the hem of my dress. A nervous habit he encourages because it makes me look fragile, convincing. "Fine," he repeated, tasting the word like it disappointed him. "You're never just fine, Lucy. You're delicate, precious. That's why I've built this whole world around keeping you safe." His hand moved to my hair, smoothing it down in a gesture that made my skin crawl. "After what happened, after the fire, I made a promise to your mother that I would protect you. Do you remember that promise?" I don't remember anything from that night except heat and screaming and then nothing. Just the nothing I've lived in ever since. "I remember," I lied. "Good girl." He left the same way he came, without asking if I wanted him there in the first place. The door clicked shut, and I heard the lock turn from the outside. "For my safety," he says, "so I don't wander and hurt myself." The Howell estate is 8,000 square feet of antiques, staircases, and corners I'm not allowed to explore without supervision. I'm a prisoner who's supposed to be grateful for her cage. I waited until his footsteps faded down the hall before I reached for the gardenias and dumped the entire vase into the bathroom sink. The water gurgled down the drain, taking that suffocating scent with it. Small rebellions are all I have. My room is on the second floor, east wing. I know it's 17 steps from my bed to the door, 12 steps to the bathroom, and 9 steps to the window that doesn't open, sealed shut after Elias decided fresh air was a safety hazard. The curtains are always drawn. Not for me, obviously. For him. So no one can see in. So no one knows I'm here. The staff rotates every 3 months. Elias says it's standard procedure, but I know better. It's so I can't form attachments. So no one gets curious. The current housekeeper, Mrs. Brennan, speaks to me in the sing-song voice people use for children and golden retrievers. She cuts my food without asking if I need help. She did it yesterday at lunch, and I felt the knife pass through the chicken on my plate, while Elias watched approvingly from across the table. "Lucy has such a sweet temperament," he told her. "Never complains, never asks for anything. An angel, really." Angels don't have fingernails embedded with spite. Angels don't fantasize about shoving gardenias down their uncle's throat, but I smiled because that's what I do. I've perfected the look. Head slightly tilted, eyes just unfocused enough, hands folded in my lap. The picture of helpless gratitude. At night, I map the house in my mind. I count Elias's schedule by sound. 7 a.m., his shower runs for exactly 12 minutes. 8:15, his car pulls out of the driveway. Diesel engine, German make. He's gone until 6 p.m. most days, unless he has a check-in, which means he comes home at random hours to make sure I haven't moved from where he left me. The staff whispers sometimes. They think I can't hear them, but sound is all I have. Poor thing, Mrs. Brennan said last week to someone in the kitchen. 20 years old and never left this house. Mr. Howell says her condition is too fragile. My condition. That's what he calls it. Not blindness, not trauma. My condition, like I'm something rotting that needs to be kept in controlled temperature. I've lived this way for 15 years. 15 years of for your own good, and you wouldn't understand, and let me handle everything, darling. 15 years of being told the fire took everything. The land deeds, my mother's will, any proof that I'm a Howell by blood and not just Elias's charity project. 15 years of believing I had no choice. Then I broke the clock. The grandfather clock had been in the east hallway for as long as I could remember. Even before the fire, when I could still see, it stood there like a sentinel. Dark wood, brass fittings, and a face I'd traced 1,000 times with my fingers after I lost my sight. Elias never moved it. Your father's favorite piece, he'd say whenever he caught me near it. One of the few things that survived. Survived. That word always felt heavy in his mouth. It was a Tuesday. I know because Mrs. Brennan does the silver on Tuesdays, and the smell of polish had been coating the air since morning. Elias was gone. A meeting with investors downtown, something about a land development deal. He'd be back by 6. I had hours. I wasn't supposed to be in the east hallway. But I'd heard something the night before. A scratching sound coming from inside the walls. A rhythmic and insistent, probably mice. The estate is old enough to have an entire ecosystem living in its bones. But the sound had been close to the clock, and I'd woken up thinking about it. Thinking about anything is better than thinking about gardenias. I counted my steps carefully. 17 from my door to the main hallway, 12 more to the clock. My fingers found the wood, smooth and cool under my touch. The pendulum ticked steadily behind the glass panel. I traced the edges, feeling for, I don't know what. An opening, a loose board, something to explain the scratching. My hand slipped. It wasn't dramatic, no great stumble or swing, just my palm catching the corner of the clock's base at the wrong angle, and suddenly the whole thing was tipping. I grabbed for it, but I was too slow, too disoriented. The crash was spectacular. Wood splintered, glass shattered. The pendulum clanged like a broken bell, and somewhere in the chaos, I heard Mrs. Brennan shriek from 2 rooms away. I stood frozen, my heart hammering against my ribs. 17 years of be careful and don't touch, and I'd just destroyed a family heirloom. Elias was going to... Miss Lucy! Mrs. Brennan's footsteps pounded toward me. Are you hurt? Don't move, there's glass everywhere. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean... Hush now, it's all right. Just stay there. But I was already kneeling, my hands searching the wreckage. I needed to know how bad it was. Needed to prepare for Elias's disappointment, his controlled anger, his soft voice saying, Lucy, darling, this is why you need supervision. My fingers found wood fragments, shards of glass, the cold brass weights. And then, paper. It was tucked inside the base, hidden in a hollow compartment that had split open in the fall. My fingers closed around it instinctively, and I pulled it close to my chest before Mrs. Brennan reached me. Don't touch anything sharp, she fussed, her hands on my shoulders, guiding me up. Let me get the broom. Mr. Howell is going to be... Well, we'll clean this up. Maybe he won't be too upset. She bustled off, muttering about dustpans and wood glue, and I was alone with the paper pressed against my ribs. It was small, maybe 4 inches by 6. The edges were rough, torn, or burned, and the smell? Smoke. Old smoke. The kind that burrows into fabric and never leaves. The kind I remember from 15 years ago. I waited until Mrs. Brennan was clattering in the supply closet, then I slipped back to my room. My hands were shaking as I sat on the bed and spread the paper across my lap. Touch is my language now. I've learned to read the world through texture. Rough, smooth, ridged, flat. Books are useless to me, but surfaces tell stories. And this paper? The surface was covered in valleys, deep, jagged indentations where a pen had carved into the paper, not written, carved. Someone had pressed down hard enough to leave braille made of panic. My fingertip traced the first line slowly. The letters were large, frantic. Whoever wrote this didn't have time for neatness. E-L-I-A-S. My breath caught. S-O-U-T-S-I-D-E-T-H-E-D-O-O-R. No, this couldn't be. U-I-T-H-A-G-A-S-C-A-N. The paper slipped from my fingers. I grabbed it back, clutching it so hard the edges crumpled. Elias said everything burned. He said the fire was an electrical fault. He said there was nothing left. No documents, no will, no evidence of anything except ash and loss. But this paper existed. This paper survived, and it was hidden inside a clock he made sure I walked past every single day. A clock he called a survivor. A reminder. Not a memorial, a trophy. My mother wrote this. I knew it the way I knew the sound of rain, the smell of smoke, the feeling of being watched. This was her handwriting, her panic, her final words pressed into paper like a scream no one heard. Except now I had. Mrs. Brennan's footsteps were coming back up the stairs. I shoved the letter under my pillow and arranged my face into something appropriately distressed. Sorry. Helpless. Small. But inside, something had cracked open wider than any grandfather clock. Elias lied. And if he lied about this, what else had he burned to keep me in the dark? I waited until midnight. Elias came home at 6:17. I heard his car in the driveway, the diesel engine cutting off, the car door slamming with that particular violence that meant he'd had a bad day. Mrs. Brennan met him in the foyer, and I heard her voice flutter with nervous explanations about the clock. An accident, Mr. Howell. She was disoriented, I think. You know how she gets... Where is she now? In her room. She's been very upset. Hasn't touched her dinner. A pause. Then his footsteps on the stairs, steady and deliberate. Each one felt like a countdown. He opened my door without knocking. Lucy. I was sitting on the bed, hands folded in my lap, eyes red from crying I'd forced out for his benefit. The letter was between the mattress and box spring, exactly where my left hip rested. If he made me stand, and I'd have to be careful. I'm so sorry, Uncle Elias, I whispered. I didn't mean to. I was just walking and I slipped. Hush. He sat beside me, and the mattress dipped. My heart stopped. Accidents happen, darling. You can't help being clumsy. It's part of your condition. My condition. That word again, like a diagnosis I never asked for. His hand found mine, squeezed it gently. The clock can be repaired. You're what matters. You didn't cut yourself, did you? No. Good. Mrs. Brennan will bring you something to help you sleep. You've had a stressful day. Translation. He was drugging me. A mild sedative in warm milk, something he'd been doing for years whenever I seemed anxious. I always pretended to drink it, then poured it into the gardenias when he wasn't looking. Tonight, there were no gardenias to save me. He watched while Mrs. Brennan brought the milk. Watched while I lifted it to my lips. Watched while I swallowed. All of it, sweetheart. I drank every drop and felt the bitter chemical aftertaste coat my tongue. That's my girl. He kissed my forehead, and I fought not to recoil. Sleep well. He locked the door on his way out. I lay still for 20 minutes, breathing slowly, letting my body relax into what anyone watching would think was drug-induced sleep. The sedative was working. I could feel the edges of my thoughts going soft. But adrenaline is stronger than chemistry, and I had work to do. I pulled the letter from its hiding place and moved to the floor beside the window, where the moonlight I couldn't see supposedly made the room less dark. My fingers trembled as I spread the paper flat. One line at a time, every letter traced twice to be sure. Elias is outside the door with a gas can. I already knew that part, but there was more. The letter wasn't finished. My mother had kept writing even as... My fingertip found the next sentence. He wants the land. The oil surveys came back. We're sitting on millions. Oil. The Howell estate wasn't just old money and antiques. It was worth millions, and Elias knew it. My parents knew it. And my mother had figured out what he was willing to do to take it. I kept reading. He's been forging documents, made me sign things I didn't read, said they were insurance papers. My throat tightened. I'd signed things too. Dozens of things over the years. Papers Elias guided my hand across while explaining they were just formalities for my trust fund, for my care, for my future. I never questioned it. Why would I? He was family. He was all I had left. The next line made my blood stop. Lucy's eyes can be fixed. Dr. Rehnquist said surgery within 6 months. Elias keeps canceling appointments. I read it again. Then a third time, my finger pressing so hard into the indentation I thought the paper might tear. My blindness, the thing that defined my entire existence, the cage Elias built around me, the reason I needed him, it could have been fixed. 15 years of darkness I didn't have to live in, 15 years of dependence he manufactured. He didn't save me from the fire. He saved me for this, for a life where I couldn't see his lies, couldn't read documents, couldn't escape. Tears were running down my face, hot and furious. I wiped them away and forced myself to keep going. If you're reading this, I'm already dead. But Lucy is alive. She has to be alive. The deed to the land is in her name, transferred this morning. Elias doesn't know yet. When she turns 18, everything reverts to her. I turned 18 2 years ago. 2 years, and Elias never said a word. Never gave me access to accounts, never mentioned inheritance, just kept me locked in this room, signing his papers, drinking his sedatives, believing I had nothing. The letter ended abruptly, the final words trailing off into an illegible scratch. Tell Lucy That's where the fire must have reached her. I sat there on the floor, holding the last thing my mother ever touched, and felt something inside me turn from grief into rage, white-hot and clarifying. Elias murdered my parents for land that was already mine. He blinded me to keep me weak, and he'd been stealing from me for 15 years, using my own helplessness as a signature. The sedative was pulling me under now, making my thoughts swim. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it inside my pillowcase, then crawled back into bed. But I didn't sleep. I planned. He knew something was wrong. I felt it the next morning when he came to wake me, earlier than usual, his footsteps lighter, more deliberate. He opened the door and stood there, silent, for a full 30 seconds before speaking, watching, testing. Good morning, Lucy. Good morning, Uncle Elias, I said, my voice still thick with manufactured sleep. The sedative had worn off hours ago, but I kept my movements slow, groggy. A girl who'd slept through the night has nothing to hide. How are you feeling today? Tired. My head hurts a little. That's the stress, darling, from yesterday's accident. He moved closer, and I heard something in his hand. Paper, maybe. Rustling. Mrs. Brennan swept up the clock. Nothing could be salvaged, I'm afraid. Such a shame. Your father loved that piece. My father? The man he murdered. I'm sorry, I whispered. Are you? The question hung in the air like smoke. I turned my head toward him, keeping my eyes unfocused the way I'd practiced for 15 years. Empty, helpless. Of course I am. I know how much it meant to... There was a compartment in the base, he interrupted. Did you know that? My heart stopped, but I kept my face still, confused, innocent. A compartment? Your father used to hide things in there. Documents, mostly. But it was empty when we cleaned up the wreckage. Completely empty. He paused. Strange, don't you think? I don't understand. No, I suppose you wouldn't. He left without another word, and I sat there trying to remember how to breathe. Dinner was at 7. It was always at 7, served in the formal dining room with Elias at the head of the table and me to his right. Close enough to monitor. Mrs. Brennan brought out the courses and disappeared like a ghost, leaving us alone in the cavernous room. I heard him cut his steak, knife against porcelain, steady and precise. "You've been quiet today," he said. "I haven't been feeling well." "Still thinking about the clock?" "Yes." "Grief is a funny thing, Lucy. It makes us hold on to objects we think contain memories, but memories are just stories we tell ourselves. Sometimes they're not even true." I lifted my fork carefully, finding the vegetables Mrs. Brennan had already cut into small, humiliating pieces. I chewed slowly, buying time. "Your mother, for instance," Elias continued, his voice casual, conversational. "You probably remember her as a saint, loving, perfect, but people are complicated. She made mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" "Trusting the wrong people. Believing things that weren't real." He took a sip of wine. "She was paranoid toward the end, you know. Started imagining conspiracies. It was very sad." He was rewriting her, erasing her credibility before I could even speak her truth. "I didn't know that," I said quietly. "Of course not. You were just a child. But I remember." His fork scraped against his plate. "She claimed I was trying to steal from the family. Can you imagine? Me, who gave up everything to raise you after they died." The lie sat between us like a third guest at the table. "That must have been hard for you," I said, and I meant it to sound sympathetic. Grateful. It came out flat. The scraping stopped. "Lucy, look at me." I turned my head toward his voice, keeping my eyes wide and unfocused. This was the performance of my life. I said, "Look at me." "I am, Uncle Elias." "Are you?" Then I heard it. The whisper of movement. Something cutting through the air near my face. Fast. Close. I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Didn't move. Whatever he'd swung at me stopped an inch from my cheek. "Interesting," he murmured. My pulse hammered in my throat, but I kept my face calm, confused. What is? Most people would have reacted. To what? He set something down on the table with a heavy thunk. Metal. The letter opener. I dropped it. You didn't even notice. Should I have? No, I suppose not. But his voice said otherwise. He didn't believe me. Not entirely. The rest of dinner passed in suffocating silence. Every bite felt like swallowing glass. Every second felt like a test I might be failing. When Mrs. Brennan finally cleared the plates, Elias stood and walked around the table. His hand landed on my shoulder, fingers pressing just a little too hard. "You'd tell me if something was bothering you, wouldn't you, Lucy?" "Of course. Because you know I only want what's best for you. Everything I've done, everything I do, is to protect you." "I know." His grip tightened. "Good. Because if I thought you were hiding something from me, I'd be very disappointed. And we wouldn't want that, would we?" "No, Uncle Elias." "That's my girl." He released me, patted my head like I was a dog. "Mrs. Brennan will take you upstairs. You should rest." I stood on shaking legs and let the housekeeper guide me out, her hand on my elbow, her breath smelling like mint and pity. Behind me, I heard Elias pour another glass of wine, and I heard him laugh, low and quiet and satisfied, like he'd just won something. But he hadn't, not yet, because I knew what he was now, not my savior, not my guardian, my warden. And every prison has a weak point. I just had to find mine. The new groundskeeper arrived on a Wednesday. I heard him before anyone told me he existed. Boots on gravel, the rumble of a truck engine that wasn't German, wasn't expensive. Something American and old, held together by stubbornness. It parked by the garden shed around 9 a.m., and I heard Elias go out to meet him. "You're late," Elias said, his voice carrying through my open window. "Traffic." The groundskeeper's voice was young, early 20s maybe, rough around the edges in a way that didn't apologize for itself. The previous groundskeeper lasted 3 months. I expect better. I'll do my job, you pay me, that's the deal. A pause. Elias didn't like being talked to like an equal, but apparently he needed this one because he just said, "The roses need trimming, start there." The truck door slammed, and I heard boots move toward the garden. I'd been trapped in my room for 2 days since the dinner test. Elias had Mrs. Brennan bring all my meals upstairs, claimed I needed rest after my episode. Translation: he was keeping me isolated until he decided what to do with me. But he couldn't lock away sound. For 3 days, I listened to the groundskeeper work. He had a routine. Started with the east garden at 9, moved to the hedges by noon, finished with the lawn by 3. He didn't talk to himself like the last one. Didn't whistle. Just worked in steady silence, and somehow that felt safer than friendliness. On the 4th day, Elias had a meeting in the city. I heard his car leave at 8 a.m. sharp. By 8:15, I was at my door. It was locked, as always. But the lock was old, installed when the house was built. And I'd spent 15 years learning its quirks. I pulled a hairpin from my braid, the one thing Elias never thought to confiscate, and worked it into the keyhole. It took 4 minutes. My hands were sweating by the time I heard the click. I counted my steps down the hallway. 17 to the main stairs, 26 down to the foyer, 12 more to the back door that led to the garden. Mrs. Brennan was in the kitchen, humming something off-key. I moved quietly, every footstep measured. The door opened with a soft creak, and September air hit my face. Cool, alive, real. I hadn't been outside in 6 months. "You're not supposed to be out here." I froze. The groundskeeper's voice came from my left, maybe 10 feet away. Close enough to grab me if Elias had told him to. "I know," I said. "Does he know you're out here?" "No." A pause. Then, "You're the niece, Lucy." "Yes." "The one who's blind." "Yes." "Then how'd you unlock the door?" Smart. He was smart. That was either very good or very dangerous. "Practice," I said. "Are you going to tell him?" Another pause. Longer this time. I heard him set down whatever tool he'd been holding. Shears, maybe, from the metallic scrape. "Should I?" "He'll say it's for my own safety, that I'm fragile, that I might hurt myself." I turned toward where his voice had come from, meeting eyes I couldn't see. He'll be lying. Why would he lie? Because he's been lying about everything since the night he murdered my parents. The words hung in the air between us, raw and reckless. I'd just confessed to a complete stranger, given him ammunition that could get me killed if he ran straight to Elias, but I was out of options. And something about the way he didn't rush to defend my uncle, didn't immediately call me crazy. It felt like possibility. "That's a hell of an accusation," he said finally. "I have proof." "What kind of proof?" "A letter. My mother wrote it the night she died. It was hidden in a clock." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "My name's Owen. I've been working here for 2 weeks." "I know. I heard you arrive. Your uncle's a piece of work." "You noticed." "Hard not to. First day, he gave me a list of rules. Most of them were about you. Don't talk to you. Don't acknowledge you if I see you at a window. Don't let you outside unsupervised." Owen's footsteps moved closer. "Man was real specific about that last part. Said you were mentally unstable. Prone to delusions." "I'm not. Didn't say I believed him." He stopped a few feet away. "Sis, I could smell motor oil and cut grass." "He pays me under the table. Cash, no paperwork. Told me he values discretion. That's code for I'm hiding something in my experience." "What made you take the job?" "Needed the money. But I've been watching. The way he talks to you through windows when he thinks I'm not listening. The way he checks the locks on the garden gate 3 times a day. The way Mrs. Brennan looks at you like you're already dead." He exhaled slowly. "I figured something was wrong. Just didn't know what." "Now you do." "Yeah, Now I do. Another pause. What do you need? Those 4 words felt like oxygen. I need to get to town. To the courthouse or the sheriff. Somewhere public where he can't stop me. My hands clenched into fists. There's a land signing ceremony in 3 days. He's selling property that belongs to me. If I can get there, if I can show people the letter, he'll kill you before you get that far. Probably. That doesn't scare you? Everything scares me. But I'm done being afraid. I took a breath. Will you help me? The silence stretched so long I thought he'd refuse. Thought he'd walk away, report me to Elias, collect whatever bonus my uncle would pay for loyalty. Then, yeah, I'll help you. Why? Because I had a sister once, and someone should have helped her when she needed it. His voice went hard. No one did. So yeah, I'll help you. I felt something crack open in my chest. Not hope, exactly. Something more dangerous. Purpose. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. We've got 3 days to figure out how to get you past the electric fence, the cameras, and a man who's killed before. He picked up his shears. Get back inside before Mrs. Brennan notices. I'll come up with a plan. I turned back toward the house, counting my steps carefully. Behind me, Owen started trimming roses again, and for the first time in 15 years, I wasn't alone. I didn't know what Elias was thinking that night. I couldn't see his face, couldn't read his expressions, but I've had 15 years to learn the sound of his footsteps, the rhythm of his breathing, the weight of his silences. And that night, sitting in my locked room with my mother's letter hidden under my pillow, I heard him in his study directly below me. The clink of glass on glass, the creak of his leather chair, the low murmur of his voice on the phone. I pressed my ear to the floor and listened. "Documents are ready," a man's voice said through the speaker. Marcus Webb, Elias's lawyer. I'd heard that nasal tone enough times to recognize it. "I'll need her signature by Friday morning to process before the ceremony." "That won't be a problem." Elias's voice was smooth, confident. "You said that last month, Elias. And then you called 2 hours before the deadline and told me to push it back. Last month she had a panic attack when I mentioned signing papers. I had to adjust my approach." Ice clinked in his glass. "She's more manageable now." Manageable. Like I was a dog he'd finally trained. "Manageable enough to sign 20 pages of legal transfer documents?" Marcus asked. "She's signed worse." My hands clenched into fists. How many times had he guided my hand across papers, his voice honey-sweet in my ear? "Just a formality, darling. For your trust fund. For your care." How many times had I signed away pieces of myself without knowing? "You're sure the guardianship holds?" Marcus continued. "If anyone contests—" "No one will contest. Lucy is mentally incompetent. I have 15 years of medical documentation proving it. Doctor's notes, psychiatric evaluations, medication records." Elias took a drink. "If she suddenly claimed otherwise, who would believe her?" The casual cruelty in his voice made my stomach turn. 15 years of documentation. All lies. All designed to make me look broken so he could keep me locked away. "What about the blindness?" Marcus asked. "What about it?" "You said it was reversible. If she ever got treatment—" "She won't." Elias's voice went cold, and even through the floor I felt it. "I've made sure of that." My mother's words echoed in my mind. Lucy's eyes can be fixed. Dr. Rehnquist said surgery within 6 months. Elias keeps canceling appointments. He'd stolen 15 years of sight from me. 15 years of dependence he manufactured, maintained, weaponized. "Friday morning," Marcus said. Don't make me push this again. The call ended. I heard Elias pour another drink. Heard him stand and walk to the window, the one that overlooked the gardens where I'd spoken to Owen that morning. Had he seen us? Did he know? His footsteps moved across the study, then stopped. When he spoke again, his voice was directed at someone else. "Brennan, I need you to increase Lucy's medication dosage starting tonight. Double the sedative in her evening milk." Mrs. Brennan's voice, hesitant. Sir, that seems… Did I ask for your medical opinion? No, sir. Then do it. And keep her room locked at all times. I don't care if she asks to go to the bathroom. She waits until you can escort her. Yes, sir. My breath caught. He was tightening the cage. He knew something was wrong, even if he didn't know what. I heard him hang up, and heard the window open, heard him standing there in silence, and I knew with absolute certainty that he was looking at the garden shed where Owen's tools were stored. Saturday, Elias said to himself, so quietly I almost missed it. Just have to make it to Saturday. More footsteps, the sound of a drawer opening, papers rustling. After the ceremony, after the contracts are executed, after the money is transferred… He paused, and I heard him take another drink. Lucy Howell, tragic victim of the fire that took her parents 15 years ago, finally succumbs to her grief, takes too many sleeping pills, joins her family at last. My blood turned to ice. He was going to kill me. Not someday, not eventually. Saturday night. I've already laid the groundwork, he continued, talking to himself the way people do when they think they're alone. Told Dr. Morrison she's been talking about wanting to join her parents. Mentioned to Brennan that Lucy seems depressed. Left pamphlets about grief counseling where people would notice. He was building my suicide before I was even dead. When it happens, no one will be surprised. They'll call it tragic. Inevitable. He laughed, low and satisfied. And I'll mourn beautifully at the funeral. The leather chair creaked as he sat back down. 3 days, he said. 15 years of playing the devoted uncle, the selfless guardian. 3 more days of performance, and it'll all be worth it. $47 million. The Howell land finally mine. I pulled away from the floor, my whole body shaking. He thought he'd won. Thought I was too blind, too drugged, and too broken to fight back. But he'd made one mistake. He'd underestimated what 15 years of darkness teaches you. How to listen, how to wait, how to survive. And now, how to fight back. I had 3 days to escape a man who'd already killed twice. 3 days to reclaim a life he'd stolen before I even knew it was mine. I pressed my hand against the letter under my pillow. My mother's final gift, her warning from beyond the grave. If you're reading this, I'm already dead. But Lucy is alive. I was alive. And I was going to make sure Elias regretted letting me stay that way. Owen's plan was simple. Too simple, probably. But we were out of time. Friday night, Elias would be in his study until 11, going over contracts for tomorrow's ceremony. Mrs. Brennan would finish her rounds by 10 and retire to her quarters on the far side of the house. That gave us a 1-hour window to get me off the estate and to Owen's truck parked a 1/4 mile down the service road. Simple. Except nothing about this place was simple. I picked the lock on my door at 10:15. My hands were steadier this time, muscle memory guiding the hairpin through the mechanism until I heard the click. The hallway was silent. I counted my steps, moving toward the back staircase, the one the staff used, the one Elias rarely monitored. 17 steps to the landing, 12 more to the corner. Then, a sound, high-pitched and mechanical. Motion sensor. I'd triggered something, and somewhere in the house a light was flashing, or an alert was pinging on Elias's phone. I ran, abandoning stealth for speed, my hands skimming the wall to keep my trajectory straight. 26 steps down the stairs, my feet hitting each one harder than I intended. I reached the back door and grabbed the handle. Locked. Not with a keyhole, with a deadbolt that required a key I didn't have. Lucy. Owen's voice came from the other side of the door, urgent and low. Can you unlock it? It's not a regular lock. The window. Try the window to your left. I moved 3 steps left, found the window frame, pushed up on the sash. It didn't budge. I tried again, harder, and felt the resistance, not from a lock, but from something welded or nailed, sealed shut, for my safety. It won't open, I said, our panic rising in my throat. Stand back! I heard the impact before I processed what Owen was doing. Something heavy smashing through the glass. Shards exploded inward, and I felt them spray past me. Then Owen's hands were reaching through, fumbling for the interior mechanism. There's a secondary lock, some kind of Got it. The door swung open, and cool night air rushed in. Owen grabbed my hand. Move, now! We ran. He pulled me across the patio, through the garden I knew only by smell. Roses and lavender and freshly cut grass. My feet hit gravel, then grass again. I stumbled, and Owen caught me, his grip firm on my elbow. Fence is 30 feet ahead, he said. There's a gate, but… It's electric, I finished. He installed it 3 years ago. Said it was to keep intruders out. Can we climb it? It's 8 feet high with sensors on top. If we touch it, the alarm goes straight to his phone and the sheriff's office. Owen swore under his breath. There has to be another way out. There isn't. The entire property is fenced. The main gate requires a code. The service gate is chained. I was breathing hard, my lungs burning. He designed it like a prison. Behind us, I heard it. The back door of the main house slamming open. Elias's voice, sharp and commanding. Lucy, where are you? Owen pulled me sideways, off the main path into the tree line. Branches scraped my face and arms. My foot caught on a root and I went down hard, my palms hitting dirt and rocks. Get up, Owen whispered. Come on, get up. I scrambled to my feet, and he pulled me deeper into the trees. We moved in silence. My world reduced to sound and touch. Owen's hand on my wrist, the crunch of leaves underfoot, the distant sound of Elias calling my name like I was a lost dog. The truck's a 1/4 mile past the north fence, Owen said quietly. If we can get to the property line, he'll find us first. He knows this land better than anyone. Then we need a distraction. What kind of… A new sound cut through the night. Dogs. Elias had dogs. Oh, hell, Owen breathed. He's got German shepherds. I've seen them in the kennel. My blood went cold. I couldn't outrun dogs, couldn't see them coming, couldn't fight them off. Lucy, listen to me. Owen's hands were on my shoulders, forcing me to focus. There's a drainage culvert about 50 yards east, runs under the fence to the creek on the other side. It's tight, maybe 2 feet wide, but I'll fit. If the dogs catch our scent, then we need to move now. He grabbed my hand again, and we ran, crashing through underbrush I couldn't see, branches whipping across my face. The dogs were getting closer, their barking sharp and frenzied. I heard Elias behind them, his voice carrying through the trees. Lucy, this is pointless. You can't leave. You'll hurt yourself. Always so concerned about me hurting myself. There, Owen said, pulling me down. Feel that? My hands found the culvert opening. Concrete, cold, slick with algae. The opening was small, claustrophobic. I could smell stagnant water and rust. You first, Owen said. I'll be right behind you. I dropped to my stomach and crawled into the darkness that was no different from the darkness I always lived in. The concrete scraped my elbows and knees. Water soaked through my clothes. I pulled myself forward, inch by inch, using my hands to guide me through the narrow tunnel. Behind me, I heard Owen enter. Heard the dogs reach the culvert entrance. Heard them barking, scrabbling at the concrete, too large to follow. And I heard Elias, standing right above us, his footsteps on the drainage grate. You think you're clever, Lucy? His voice echoed down through the metal. You think you can run from me? I made you. Everything you are exists because I allow it. I kept crawling. I'll be waiting on the other side, he called after us. And when I find you, we're going to have a very different conversation about your future. But I was already through. Owen pulled me out into the creek bed, and we ran into a darkness Elias couldn't control. Not anymore. Owen's truck was exactly where he said it would be, parked on the service road, hidden behind a stand of oak trees. He pulled open the passenger door and helped me inside, my clothes still dripping creek water, my hands shaking from adrenaline and cold. We need to go, I said. Now, before he… Lucy, listen. Owen's voice was tight. He's already called it in. I can hear sirens. I heard them too, distant but growing closer. Multiple vehicles. The sheriff's department is 10 minutes away, Owen continued. Your uncles probably told them you're mentally unstable, dangerous to yourself. If they stop us on the road, They'll take me back to him. Yeah. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to think. We'd made it off the estate, but that didn't matter if Elias could use the law to drag me back. Yet he had 15 years of documentation painting me as incompetent. I had a burned letter and a story no one would believe, unless they had to believe it. The ceremony, I said suddenly. What time does it start? 10 a.m. Why? Because Elias won't miss it, no matter what. $47 million is on the line. He'll go to that ceremony even if he has to hunt me down afterward. I turned toward Owen. If we drive straight to town hall, he'll have the sheriff intercept us. But if I'm already there when he arrives, if I'm in front of witnesses, cameras, the mayor, he can't touch you without showing his hand. Exactly. Owen was quiet for a moment. Then, that's insane. Do you have a better idea? The sirens were getting louder. Red and blue lights flickered through the trees. How do we get you there without being stopped? Owen asked. I took a breath. We don't. He does. What? Elias has to drive to town hall tomorrow morning. He'll leave the estate at 9:30. He's never late. My mind was racing now, pieces clicking into place. If I'm already in his car, hidden in the trunk or the back seat, he'll drive me straight to the ceremony without knowing it. That's... Lucy, if he finds you before you get there, then I'm dead either way. At least this gives me a chance. Owen swore under his breath. The sirens were close now, maybe 2 minutes out. We need to move, he said. If they find me with you, I'm an accomplice. I'll go to jail and you'll go back to that house. Where will you be? Town hall. Front row. When you make your move, I'll back you up. He squeezed my shoulder. Don't get yourself killed. Oh, Lucy. I'll try not to. He drove me back to the edge of the estate, stopping just outside the main gate where the cameras wouldn't catch us. The police had already arrived. I heard their radios crackling, voices coordinating a search of the grounds. They thought I was still out there somewhere, lost in the woods. Let them think that. Owen walked me to the garage, a separate building 50 yards from the main house. Elias kept 3 cars there, the Mercedes he drove daily, a vintage Rolls-Royce for special occasions, and a Range Rover for appearances of rugged practicality. He'll take the Mercedes tomorrow, I whispered. He always does for business. Owen tried the door. Locked. There's a keypad, 4 digits. Try 1852. How do you know? It's the year the estate was built. He uses it for everything. The lock beeped and clicked open. Inside, the garage smelled like oil and leather and Elias's cologne, expensive and suffocating. Owen guided me to the Mercedes, opened the back door. Back seat or trunk? Back seat. If he opens the trunk for luggage, I'm exposed. But he never looks in the back. He assumes it's empty because he controls everything. Floor space is tight. You'll have to... I know. I'll fit. Owen helped me down into the footwell behind the driver's seat. The space was cramped, my knees pulled up to my chest, my spine curved at an awkward angle. He draped a car blanket over me that smelled like motor oil. There's water bottles under the seat if you need them, he said. And Lucy, don't move once he starts driving. Don't make a sound. He's paranoid enough already. I won't. I'll see you at town hall. Owen. I reached out blindly and found his hand. Thank you. Thank me when this is over. He left, closing the car door softly. I heard him slip out of the garage, heard the door lock behind him. Then silence. I lay there in the dark, my dark, and waited. Hours passed. I counted them by the sounds of the estate, the police leaving around midnight, their sirens fading into the distance, Mrs. Brennan arriving at 6 a.m., her car door slamming in the driveway, the house waking up around me, oblivious to the fact that I was 50 yards away, hidden in plain sight. At 9:15, I heard footsteps approaching the garage. Elias. The door opened. He walked to the Mercedes with the confident stride of a man who'd already won. I heard him open the driver's door, and settle into the seat directly above me, close the door with a solid thunk. The engine purred to life. My heart hammered so hard I was sure he could hear it. I pressed my hand over my mouth, trying to silence my breathing. The car began to move. Through the garage, down the driveway, past the gates I'd never been allowed to cross. Every bump in the road sent pain shooting through my cramped muscles, but I didn't move, didn't make a sound. Elias's phone rang, Bluetooth connected automatically. "Talk to me," he said. "Still no sign of her." The sheriff's voice. "We searched all night. Either she's still on the property or she drowned in the creek. Blind girl running in the dark. Tragic but predictable." Elias's voice was cold, satisfied. "Call off the search." "I have a ceremony to get to." "You sure you want to proceed with 47 million reasons why I'm sure, Sheriff? Lucy made her choice. Now I make mine." He hung up and drove his niece, the one he'd just declared dead, straight toward her resurrection. The car stopped. Elias killed the engine, and I heard him check his reflection in the rearview mirror, the small adjustments of a man preparing to perform. A tie straightened, hair smoothed, the armor of respectability. His door opened and closed, footsteps on pavement, then voices. "Mr. Howell, wonderful to see you." "Mayor, thank you for hosting this." $47 million? We should be thanking you. This deal puts our town on the map." Their voices faded as they walked toward town hall. I waited, counting to 60, then pushed the blanket off and sat up. Every muscle screamed from hours of cramped stillness. I felt for the door handle, found it, pushed. The door opened onto morning air and the murmur of a crowd. I pulled myself out, my legs barely holding me. The letter was still tucked inside my jacket, pressed against my ribs where I'd kept it since the night I found it. My mother's last words, my only weapon. "Lucy?" Owen's voice, close and urgent. His hand found my elbow. "I'm here," I whispered. "Can you walk?" "I don't have a choice." He guided me toward the building. I heard the crowd, maybe 70 or 80 people based on the density of voices. The ceremony had already started. Through the open doors, I heard the mayor speaking into a microphone. "Unprecedented opportunity for growth and prosperity, and we owe it all to a man whose dedication to this community has been unwavering. Ladies and gentlemen, Elias Howell." Applause, loud and enthusiastic. "We need to go," Owen said. "Now, while he's on stage." We moved through the crowd, and I felt people turn to look. Whispers followed us like smoke. "Is that the niece?" I thought she was missing." "Someone call." "Thank you, Mayor." Elias's voice boomed through the speakers, confident and warm. "This is a momentous day, not just for me, but for all of us. The Howell estate has been in my family for generations, and it brings me great pride to see it contribute to our community's future." Owen pulled me forward, through the crowd, up steps I couldn't see. My foot caught on something and I stumbled, but he held me steady. "The stage is 3 feet ahead," he whispered. "Can you?" "Yes." I walked forward, my hands outstretched, and found the podium. Found Elias standing next to it. The crowd went silent. "Lucy." Elias's voice was soft, shocked, but already calculating. "Sweetheart, what are you doing here? You should be home, resting. You've been through such an ordeal." I found the microphone with my hands and pulled it toward me. "My name is Lucy Howell," I said, and my voice echoed through the hall. "I'm 20 years old, I'm blind, and I'm the legal owner of the land Elias is trying to sell." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elias's hand closed on my wrist. "Lucy, you're confused. Let's go outside and—" I pulled away from him, gripping the podium with both hands. 15 years ago, there was a fire. It killed my parents. Everyone was told it was an accident. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the letter, holding it up for the crowd to see. This is a letter my mother wrote minutes before she died. It was hidden in a grandfather clock. Elias told me everything burned. He lied. "She's having a breakdown," Elias said, his voice urgent, concerned, playing to the crowd. "She's mentally ill." She doesn't know what she's saying." Elias is outside the door with a gas can. I spoke clearly, reciting the words I'd traced 100 times in the dark. He wants the land. The oil surveys came back. We're sitting on millions. He's been forging documents, made me sign things I didn't read. The crowd was dead silent now. Lucy's eyes can be fixed. Dr. Rehnquist said surgery within 6 months. Elias keeps canceling appointments. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. If you're reading this, I'm already dead. But Lucy is alive. The deed to the land is in her name. When she turns 18, everything reverts to her. Enough! Elias lunged for the letter, and I heard the crowd gasp. Owen stepped between us. Don't, Owen said quietly. Don't make this worse. Worse? Elias's voice had lost all its honey. Now it was just gravel. Unjust rage. This little bitch, she's ruined everything. 15 years I kept her alive when I should have finished it that night. The crowd erupted. Voices shouting, chairs scraping, someone yelling for the sheriff. I gave her a home! Elias was shouting now, his carefully constructed mask shattered. I fed her, clothed her, kept her weak enough that she couldn't fight back. And this is how she repays me? Mr. Howell. The sheriff's voice cut through the chaos. I'm going to need you to step away from the girl. She's lying. She's mentally incompetent. I have documentation. You have 15 years of forged records, I said, my voice steady now. And I have my mother's testimony, written in her own hand, identifying you as her murderer. I held out the letter. Carbon dating will prove when this was written, and the handwriting will match her signature on file, and the oil surveys will prove motive. I turned my head toward where the mayor's voice had come from. He was going to steal $47 million from me today. Instead, he just confessed to murder in front of 80 witnesses. Silence. Then the click of handcuffs. Elias Howell, you're under arrest for fraud, attempted murder, and suspicion of arson resulting in death. You have the right to remain silent. No, you don't understand. Everything I did was... Take him out, the sheriff said. I heard Elias being dragged away, his voice echoing through the hall, still trying to justify, to explain, to control. But no one was listening anymore. Owen's hand found my shoulder. You did it. I was shaking. My legs finally gave out and I sank to the stage floor, and the letter still clutched in my hands. The mayor's voice, uncertain now. Does someone need to call a doctor? I'm fine, I said. And for the first time in 15 years, I meant it. I was blind, homeless, traumatized, and alone. But I was free. And the land, my mother's land, my inheritance, my future, was finally mine. The fire had tried to erase everything, but ash leaves a texture, and some truths refused to burn. I reclaimed my inheritance 3 months after Elias's arrest. The oil drilling rights sold for $47 million, this time with my signature. My choice. Elias was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, arson, fraud, and kidnapping. He's serving life without parole. I attended the sentencing. I wanted him to know I was there. I underwent surgery 6 months later. Dr. Rehnquist, the same doctor my mother mentioned in her letter, partially restored my vision. I can see shapes now, light and shadow. Faces are still blurry, but I'm learning. I still read by touch, though. Some things you choose to keep. Owen still works for me, not as a groundskeeper, as head of security for the Howell estate. He says he's making sure no one ever locks me in again. The grandfather clock was restored. It sits in my office now, the compartment empty. I don't need to hide anymore. My name is Lucy Howell, I'm 20 years old, and I survived. If my story kept you on the edge of your seat, I'd appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe for more stories like mine, tales of survival, betrayal, and justice. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in my situation? Could you have survived 15 years in a golden cage? Hit the notification bell so you never miss the next story. Thanks for listening to my story. Stay safe out there. And remember, some prisons don't have bars, but every prison has a way out. You just have to be willing to find it. New stories every week. Subscribe now.